The following program is presented by the HTM Podcast Network.
Welcome to another episode of Turnbuckle Talk, powered by thegorillaposition.com and a proud part of the Roar Network, presented by the Hitting the Marks podcast network, and now in association with IndiePW.com. We are sponsored by Collar and ElbowBrand.com, where you can get 10% off when using promo code JKPodcast at the checkout. Partnership with HypeCityVapors.com, where you can get 15% off all your e-juice for your vape by using promo code JKPodcast. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by searching at TB Talk Pod. To listen to the podcast, you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and the list goes on and on. As always, I am Big Joe.
And I'm Karl Karufel.
Yes, Karl, another week has come and gone in the world of professional wrestling. And kind of as per the norm lately, before we get into our wrestling discussion, how are things going for Karufel up there in Northern Ontario, Canada? We still have a little bit of winter up there from what I hear.
We do.
It's May,
yeah,
dude. It's May.
Unfortunately. Yeah, it's May. It's May already. And there was still some snow flying around. Even last night, there was still a little bit of snow that was flying around. Just crazy.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
We haven't had a ton of snow here, but we've had the odd sprinkle here and there. It's more or less just kind of still been cool. So it's definitely been unusual for May in Southern Ontario, where I'm located here. And looking forward to that nonsense going away and hopefully to a summer coming soon, but hopefully it won't be too short. It's almost getting to the point, Karl, with the way climates are kind of going, that they might have to start shifting when the seasons are, because I think it's quite clear we're trending into later winters, at least here in Canada anyway, so they might have to start changing the old calendars when it comes to the seasons.
They definitely might have to. That's a huge possibility. I mean, yeah, it seems to be that way right now. But I mean, even here, our winters seem to get longer and longer and longer and longer. I remember a time where it wasn't until November that we were getting snow, and then like end of November, and I mean now even before Halloween, there's snow. So it's what the heck is going on here?
It's just gonna be permanent winter up there. And, as for, COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, we're still kind of living in this world. Things seem to be starting to trending towards things opening back up. I know where I work at a large retailer, they've actually started allowing customers in the store again, but just in limited numbers, to try and help. And hopefully this will trickle down into some smaller businesses as well. I'm sure that this isn't just limited to Canada, but I know a lot of smaller businesses are really struggling and on the verge of just going off into oblivion unless they can start getting some customers into the location. So hopefully that can start filtering into those, and they can start letting limited customers in at a time to try and get some revenue going to them again, because it's getting tough, and some places just aren't going to survive unless they start doing some business soon.
It's very true. Our premier, Doug Ford in Ontario, actually has got a plan in place, a five-step plan, I guess you could say. And part of that plan for, I believe today, is actually for any businesses that have a door that leads to an outside.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're looking like downtown core businesses type of things. So like us down here, we've got a like an ice cream shop that has been closed, hasn't been opened. It can open up, but only for curbside. So those are some of the limitations, some of the restrictions that are coming in. But yeah, slowly we're starting to reopen everything, and I hope honestly it needs to happen as soon as possible, because people are going crazy out there. My line of work, I'm a security professional. I drive around in a vehicle at night, and just some of the stuff I deal with and the stuff that I see is unreal.
Yeah, for sure. And looking forward to some things getting back to some normalcy. Getting into some wrestling discussion here, Karl. We're off the hop here. A type of event that didn't happen the way it normally happens is we're talking WWE Money in the Bank for 2020 here. This happened on Sunday, May 10th, just a couple days ago. And first of all, this was done from the WWE headquarters. I believe that is a first.
Yes, it is. First time ever that it has been done at the headquarters. Now, for those of you who have not seen it, WWE during this time has tried to go with a little bit more of a cinematic feel to what they're doing. So this was definitely, it was pre-recorded.
Yeah.
They put a little bit of a cinematic type of feel onto it. So keep that in mind. It's not your typical professional wrestling match that you would see if you were in an area live.
Yep.
But I mean, I'm just going to come right out and say it. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I didn't have any issues with it. The entire card, I really didn't have any issues with it. For what they've had to deal with and what they have to work with, I think that they did pretty decent for what they've got available.
Oh, cool, because you just actually answered my next question. I was going to ask what your kind of overall feeling was. For myself, a little disclaimer at the beginning here. In this past week, I did end up canceling my WWE Network subscription. I had it for a good probably 4 or 5 months there, and no secret that I'm not really pleased with the product. And to be perfectly blunt as well, just given what's kind of goes on outside of what we do here, Karl, and I know you can relate yourself, that we're very busy. We have busy lives outside of doing Turnbuckle Talk here. Work has been very busy. We haven't stopped working through this whole business, and I just haven't had, frankly, the time to watch. And when I do watch, I mean, I don't get the enjoyment out of the product, so I had to make the kind of the tough decision to cancel it. But I did catch the highlights from this, so I figured we'd go through this a little bit and kind of discuss the results. Pre-show, arguably for me, this was probably one of the better matches for the evening, and it was the pre-show match with Jeff Hardy defeating Cesaro. So an interesting one there. Two great guys. Interesting that they were relegated to the pre-show.
Not really, though. I mean, Jeff Hardy is just returning. So this, I guess you could say, is like his 27.599876 time that he is being given another chance. So I'm putting him right onto the main card, not a good idea in my book anyways, but having him go out there and do the pre-show, which not everybody watches the pre-show. So what better way for management to kind of just sit back and go, okay, go out there, show us what you can do still, show us what you've got still, prove us wrong. We're giving you another shot. This is your 27th shot. So, make sure that it's worth our time, right?
For sure.
So, being the pre-show, I think, was the best option.
Yeah, Jeff's been given so many second chances, not just in WWE, just in the industry in general, and hopefully, things go well, and hopefully no kind of shenanigans happen, because he is a legend in our business, and we don't want to see people fall flat on their face, and hopefully things go good this time around. Next up, we had a fatal 4-way for the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Championships. I am typically not a fan of these multi-way tag team matches, and for me this really wasn't any different. Just too much kind of going on, too many moving parts for me for this one.
I watched it. I watched the entire thing, and I didn't find that at all. I found that everything kind of moved seamlessly, kind of as it should. They played into the typical things. Jackson Riker was out there. He got thrown out, which it's pretty much a no holds barred match. Like, what are you doing here? It's a fatal 4-way. There's But anyways, like he was kicked out. He was like, no, you have to go to the back. And then you got the spots where it's like you think that the Forgotten Sons are gonna win it. They're gonna win it. Oh wait, no, they did. Holy crap! And then in comes like the Lucha House Party, and then you think that they're gonna take it, and then it's holy crap! And it just kind of kept going like that, which was fantastic. We really didn't see a whole lot from like John Morrison and The Miz, which I was kind of surprised about because they've got this whole big thing that they've been doing, this big push that they're on. But the New Day defeating the Forgotten Sons, John Morrison and The Miz, and the Lucha House Party to retain the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Honestly, I didn't see that coming. I honestly thought that this was going to be a Forgotten Sons victory and a time for them to shine.
Yep, surprising to still see these guys around, considering kind of what was been going on lately in WWE, and that they weren't quote unquote forgotten and let go. All three of those guys still around. I mean, I would have figured that they would have been part of those cuts, but good to see. I mean, Jackson Riker, otherwise known as Gunner, previously in other promotions, was our very first guest on Turnbuckle Talk here, Karl. So a friend of ours, and glad to see that he's still around and still getting a paycheck from WWE. So a good deal there for him, and happy for him. Next up, we had Bobby Lashley versus R-Truth in a regular singles match, and this one happened relatively quickly. It looks like it went about 1 minute and 40 seconds.
While the match was 1 minute and 40 seconds, we have to kind of take a look at what happened beforehand. So it was supposed to be MVP versus R-Truth, which I would have loved to have seen. That would have been great.
That would have been a decent match.
Yeah, and then R-Truth coming out and doing his little bit of a comedic shtick, which personally I love. I think it's fantastic what R-Truth has done with just this whole comedy thing that he does. And he's talking about teaching MVP how to be ballin', and MVP is essentially the master of ballin', if you don't know, right? Going back through the history books of WWE. And it was fantastic to see, R-Truth out there going, so ballin', and you throw, and it went in, and that's a 2-pointer. And then he goes, hold on, and he backs up 2 steps and does a motion where he's throwing a basketball, and he goes, ballin', 3 points. And like, it was cool to see. And then all of a sudden, MVP's like, I got something for you. I'll teach you. And then out comes Bobby Lashley, which was kind of odd, but maybe not at the same point, considering releases that have happened, and now they really don't have any storyline for Bobby Lashley and Lana right now.
So you got to do something.
So why not throw him with MVP and do something good in that sense, which I think hopefully is what they're going to be doing. But all around, if we're even it just being a quick Bobby Lashley squash match, the comedic factor at the very beginning is what made that match for me.
There you go. Next up, we had Bayley versus Tamina. I really don't know what to say. I mean, at this point, again, to be fair, I did not watch the whole show of this. I'm watching highlights, main spots in this with the stuff. From what I've seen, kind of at this point in the card, it starts to get, I won't say generic for me, but it starts to get kind of by the numbers at this point. Minus the very last match.
Yeah, things start to you do kind of feel that things start to kind of get safe. After this, starts to become just very basic, as if they're just training out there in the ring, training with each other type of thing. Don't get me wrong, Tamina looked very good in that match. I was very happy with that. And for those of you that don't know, Tamina is actually the daughter of the Superfly, Jimmy Snuka. So, I mean, family lineage right there, whether good or bad, whatever you think of the Superfly. I mean, she grew up in the business. She knows what to do, and it's about time. And I'm happy that they're really starting to give Tamina a little bit so that she can, showcase. They really don't play off of the whole Superfly. I don't think I even mentioned them. or I don't remember hearing them mention Jimmy Snuka at all,
Yeah.
or that she's the daughter of a Hall of Famer, or like nothing. Like I
No.
didn't hear any of that. So they're really letting Tamina just be Tamina. Bailey, I'm still happy with Bailey. I know, Big Joe has a very different opinion on that.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy with it. She's out there having fun, doing what she wants to do. I can see in her that she's having fun playing this character right now.
Yeah.
So if she's having fun with it, I'm okay.
Yeah. As far as the Tamina situation, that gets a little tricky because it is very similar, maybe not quite to the same extent when we're talking David Benoit. Tamina's the kind of one where, given what's happened recently, I'm pretty damn sure that the commentary and whatnot are told to not even mention the Snuka last name, just because of all the negativity that's tied to her dad. And having said that too, I think she's one of these ones, Karl, where if they were to put any kind of title on her, the backlash from all different angles would just be overwhelming, I think. And, even the people, the family of, Jimmy's girlfriend, because he was married at the time as well, but the family of his girlfriend he had at the time that was killed, whether it was by accident or on purpose or whatever have you, we still don't know the answer to that question. I mean, there'll be so much backlash from them, and then the internet wrestling community, you betcha, and then just kind of everybody else. So she's in that situation where I don't see her ever being that title holding person. I don't think that they can do it, unfortunately,
which is really
for her.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because honestly, from what she's done, she's come a very long way. And she's been with the company for quite a while now.
Yeah.
I think she's earned at least one run of being the champ. And I mean, it sucks. I think you're very much so correct in your statement there. But yeah, very unfortunate that those situations abide. And yeah, I mean, there's not much we can do about it, right? But
because if when you talk big women in WWE, I mean, I would take one of her over 10 Nia Jaxes any day. At least Tamina can actually kind of work. And she doesn't. She doesn't go to McDonald's every second day or every other hour or so. Next up, we had Braun Strowman versus the Bray Wyatt. Wasn't the Fiend version of Bray Wyatt. We just had straight up Mr. Rogers, friendly neighborhood Bray Wyatt. There was some interesting psychology kind of going on here, trying to get Braun to come over, to Bray's side, and Braun wasn't having any of that. So I mean, there was some cool stuff in here. Still, the Bray Wyatt character, this iteration of it, where it's this and sometimes the Fiend, just it's never really translated to very well into being an in-ring character. I mean, Bray can still work in that ring pretty well, just that the character doesn't really fit into professional wrestling. It's never really translated well, at least from my perspective.
Which is unfortunate again, because I think it's fantastic what he's doing. Yeah. This whole creative control that he has over his character right now has been fantastic, and I think he has been killing it with what he's been doing with this Bray Wyatt and the Fiend type of thing and character. Spoiler alert for you, this match here, from what I have been seeing, was pre-taped. So they did do some, cinematic type of stuff with this match as well.
Yep.
But all in all, this was a great match. I very much so enjoyed it. It was very fun to see, very fun to watch. The little elements that they had of the puppets at ringside, and come home, Braun, come home, Braun. Like all of that was really good. I was very happy to see that. And then another spoiler alert for you: Braun actually puts on the black sheep mask for a few minutes, and you kind of start to believe that maybe he's just given in, and then takes the mask off and ultimately wins the match in the end. So we have Braun Strowman retaining the world or the Universal Championship over Bray Wyatt. So all in all, I was happy with what they did.
So next up, we had Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins for the WWE Championship. Now, I was pretty vocal about this, when it happened. I felt that Drew, definitely the right person to put the title on, and timing was good. Just he had the horrible misfortune of being a guy to win, supposedly the most prestigious title in the company in front of zero crowd in person. So that was kind of the only unfortunate thing here. Both great talents in the ring. Just I don't know. It's a weird thing with these two, and it's not just these two. It's everything. I've been pretty vocal that I feel that wrestling is best when there's a live audience there for the show. So, even when in this week, you'll hear coming up on Tuesday as well for the Hot Tag WrestleCast, we got to sit down with Mr. Michael Melkor from the GorillaPosition.com, and he very much feels that same way. He still gives credit to the current product, giving them props for doing what they can, but it's just not the same with the live audience. And Drew, he's one of those guys that can really, really feed off of a live audience, and it's just not there for him. I honestly, I feel for him.
As much as I hate to do this, I agree with you. Having some sort of audience, whether it's like AEW has been doing with just having talent out there, kind of, giving little jabs and jeering at the talent that's in the ring working. Just those little things like that really make a big difference. Trying to watch WWE programming with no one there to kind of ooh or awe or anything like that at all really does take away from it. I don't take away anything from what these athletes are still doing inside the ring, but it would be maybe a little bit better if there was just a little bit of a crowd out there.
Yeah. So Drew ended up, defeating Seth Rollins and holding on to that title just shy of 20 minutes in that match. Next up, we had we got to combine these two, Karl, because these matches happened simultaneously here. We had the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, which consisted of Asuka, Carmella, Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, Nia Jax, and Shayna Baszler. And on the men's side, we had Otis, AJ Styles, Aleister Black, Daniel Bryan, King Corbin, and Rey Mysterio for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match briefcase. Now, just overall, briefly on this, nothing to take away from any of these talents. I mean, there are a handful, especially on the women's side here, that I'm not particularly fond of, never really have been, namely Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. But I mean, they all did what they could here. I know a lot of people found this entertaining. When I watched this here, Karl, like I said, nothing to take away from any of the talents here, but it just felt like one big slapstick comedy routine.
You're right. It did.
Unfortunately,
but,
man.
Yeah,
for like a first time, kind of a really different thing. We even had both the men and the women at the same time. There's a lot of potential here, but just it felt like slapstick comedy to me, Karl. I hate to say it. I really do.
I mean, I wouldn't say slapstick comedy, but I mean, it did have some comedic stuff to it. Yeah. My wife, she tolerates my professional wrestling.
Yes.
She actually sat down and was watching the show with me last night or Sunday night.
What were her thoughts?
Just with this match alone, she was entertained. Now, again, as we have said on previous podcasts, that's what the WWE does. That's what the E in WWE is. It is entertainment. Yep. So did they hit the mark? Pun intended? Yes. Yes, they did with that match. Just different little things that happened. Like you saw Paul Heyman and a food fight happen. Like the wife was sitting there going, there's going to be a food fight. Yep. As soon as she saw that, she's like, what is Paul Heyman doing with all of that? Oh, there's going to be a food fight. Because there was a whole table of food set out. Yep. And then, Mr. John Laurinaitis coming out, and she's always called him laryngitis.
John Laryngitis, that's true, though. It's true.
Right?
Good catch, sir.
So she's like, oh, it's laryngitis. It's Mr. Laryngitis. And I'm like, yep, sure is.
Fantastic.
And she knows his actual name.
Yeah.
But... So like she was actually entertained. She stopped what she was doing for a few and she was actually watching and engaged in this matchup that happened, right? And so if that's what they were going for, they hit it. If that's the market that they were looking for, is people who, are looking for that entertainment factor, they hit it. They knocked it out of the park with this, because somebody who's just a very casual and tolerates my obsession of professional wrestling was entertained.
Yeah.
Right. So we do have to note, though, and this is actually coming from my wife, who is a medical professional. She says, and if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert again, I know I'm giving lots of these spoilers. They were in Vince McMahon's office. And after they left the office, there was only 2 guys that were in the office. I won't mention who. Go and watch it, because it was actually entertaining. After they left Vince's office, he grabbed out the hand sanitizer, put it into his hands, and rubbed his hands together, giving that little bit of a jab to the whole pandemic happening right now, and then went and continued to his work. So that was amazing to see that they actually threw in a little bit of make sure you're sanitizing, make sure you're washing your hands. So
tad tone deaf there, but we even had apparently a couple attempted murders. Or as far as we know, they're confirmed murders. Aleister Black and Rey Mysterio thrown off the top of the building. I don't know what the deal is there, but man,
that was the only thing that really irked me was they went over, but they didn't follow up on any of that. So I'm hoping over the next couple of days that maybe they will, because we're recording on Monday, for those who don't know. So we haven't seen Raw yet, so we don't know what they're going to kind of say on Raw about what happens to Aleister Black and Rey Mysterio. As far as we know right now, our thoughts and prayers go out to their families, and rest in peace to both. But who knows, right? But I wish that they would have followed up a little bit on that.
See, the creative juices kind of get running in my head there. You have Aleister Black, and here's the opportunity here, Karl, to have somebody not be the Undertaker characters, so to speak, but to kind of maybe take over that persona, maybe that spot. You could have Aleister Black, coming back from the dead. Then you can have him really be kind of this paranormal, supernatural type of character, and then really kind of go over the top of what they should have been doing with him already. But here's a chance now. Okay, you've killed him. Now we can make him the dead man. And opportunities there, guys. Take it. It's right there in front of you. The shit writes itself here.
Yeah, 100% they should have. They should have actually shown him getting thrown over, and then it was all pre-recorded. So they should have shown him just laying out on the ground.
Yep.
Right? Like why not? Yep. You don't need to throw any blood or anything like that into it. Just show Aleister Black laying on the actual ground, and then kind of pan up from there, come back up to the top, and then all of a sudden we see Aleister Black floating.
You can do like a hologram or something,
and then he's back up there, right? Like that would have been perfect opportunity for them to have done something like that.
Yep.
Because it was all cinematography anyways.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. All right, man. So moving away briefly from WWE here, this was something that you had made me aware of. Unfortunately, this is a product that I haven't had a chance to watch much of. Jesus, I can't remember the last time that I've watched Impact. But they've done something interesting here, Karl, from what you've been telling me, that they have brought back the TNA title with Moose.
Yes, they have, in a very interesting move. From what I've been seeing from a number of different news sources now, is that Impact Wrestling is going to be kind of using the TNA branding a little bit more in their product right now. I think it might be kind of one of two things right now. Either one, they're hearing and trying to deal with backlash over Tessa Blanchard being the Impact heavyweight champion, so they're trying to appease to both sides. The ones who say perfectly fine for a woman to hold the heavyweight championship, and then those that are saying no, it's not fine, whatever their reasoning is. So appeal to both sides and run with two world heavyweight championships. They're different branded. Sure, why not? Or it could be a case of Impact trying to draw in the former TNA fans that have stopped watching by bringing back probably one of the most gorgeous looking championships that I've ever seen, the TNA championship. It might be that just them trying to really draw in those fans back to their product. So exactly what it is, I have no clue, but either way, it's happened.
They're trying stuff, which I'll give them credit for. And, they're a company that needs to do that. They need to try different things to see what's going to stick, because, they're caught in that really weird territory of where they're this lower mid kind of level company, and they need to do something to make them to stand out. And with a guy like Moose, you have such a unique opportunity to, and this is really going entertainment on this, but hey, why not? You can really draw in some younger crowds with this. TNA Impact, whatever you want to call them, is a Canadian company. You have a guy named Moose. You should be selling merchandise like crazy with this. So you have little Moose hats for the people in the crowd. Well, now you can go full on with this and really make him be a baby face, good guy persona, and go over top with the merchandise. You can really have some fun with this stuff and just try different stuff and see what sticks. This deal with Tessa Blanchard, I mean, I don't think two people in this entire business could agree on that move there. I think people were either for it or against it, and it was really a 50-50 thing. I mean, it wasn't something that a lot of people agreed on. So I think it's a good move to try something different and see if it'll work.
And I just want to put out there, and this wasn't even on here, and I don't think that you and I have even talked about this yet, but it has been officially announced that even Ring of Honor is kind of doing this as well. Ring of Honor is bringing back the Pure Championship.
Yeah.
So they're going to be having a tournament for it. One of the people that I follow on social media, I'm not gonna throw them out there just yet. Maybe next week we'll throw out the name. I want to just make sure that everything is legit with all of this. But apparently, this person was contacted by ROH and Marty Scurll to recreate and make that ROH Pure Championship. So how fantastic is that? That they're actually the original one is going to be kept in whatever type of vault that ROH has, and they're going to use one that somebody that I follow has actually made. So very cool to see that. But yeah, like even Ring of Honor is bringing back different championships to kind of draw that little bit of attention from others that might not be currently watching.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, because I mean that was really kind of set to happen just right when all this COVID-19 stuff started happening. So it was kind of put on hold. Looking forward to seeing who all will be involved in that once they're able to get that up and going. Something that you had made me aware of, and this was with AEW. Just pulling up the article now, and this happened very much after the fact, which is interesting to say the least here. But AEW was recently fined to the tune of $10,000 for the match that they did when they were in Maryland, because apparently according to the Maryland State Athletic Commission, you're not supposed to do blood in a match in Maryland. That's been known for literally 35 years that you don't do blood in Maryland. The commission for years would stop a match at the first sight of blood, and there was a lot of blood in that match. They're talking about the Moxley Omega match. What show was that at? That was at Full Gear.
Full Gear, lights out match.
Yeah, a little interesting that this is being brought to light so far after the fact. I don't know. I get it, but I don't know. It seems a little kind of petty to go after a company for this kind of stuff, especially given that it's professional wrestling and entertainment and whatever you want to call it. I've never been really a fan of these fines, to be honest with you.
I really haven't been either. I mean, unfortunately, it's a state by state thing, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's athletic commissions within every state. I know that in Michigan, when I was wrestling in Michigan, I could have been in serious trouble because I actually didn't have a professional wrestler's license for Michigan. So yeah, I could have gotten in trouble, but thankfully I didn't. But they seem to be a little bit more laxed and open with things in the state of Michigan, at least. We could do whatever we wanted. It really didn't matter because they classified it as more of an entertainment thing. So it wasn't too bad in that respect. But then you get states like Maryland that I don't understand how they can differ so much from state to state. Not allowing, and as they say, for literally 35 years, you don't do blood in Maryland. Well, why not?
Yeah.
Are you not allowing boxing? Are you not allowing UFC? Like, I mean, all of these other things that are out there, is this kind of a double standard going on? I haven't really looked into it, so I don't know, but all in all, anyways, it comes down to these guys have, they've gone through and been fined. So, yeah.
Yep, we'll see what comes of it. Personally, I don't think that there's going to be much flack over this. It's something that's just going to kind of fly below the radar for the most part and not really be that big of a deal. But, time will tell. But I don't see it negatively affecting the company whatsoever, really.
No. They paid the fine and that's it. They're moving on.
Yeah, life goes on. World keeps on spinning. Going back over to some WWE stuff here, Karl. This is another one that you had made me aware of. WWE, it looks like they're going to be launching a new reality show. Tentatively called The Quest for Lost WWE Treasures. Now, you, Karl, and a lot of people out there that are regular listeners to the program would probably think that Big Joe is going to hate this idea. And typically with WWE reality shows, you would be correct. I am typically not a fan of them because I feel that it compromises the storylines and whatnot going on. This is a cool idea that can work as long as you're not using current active talent. So I think using like Triple H and some of these, John Laryngitis, these guys, you can use them, but try not to use active talent on the show because it's going to compromise the storylines. And this is a time where it's very important to keep those storylines going to try and salvage things here. Just make sure you use guys that are off of TV.
So I don't know if you've actually looked into what this is. I'm going to give everybody a little bit of insight into what this is. So this reality show is going to be in partnership with A&E. Mm-hmm. And what they're doing is they're going to have Triple H and Stephanie. Okay. Have you ever seen American Pickers or Canadian Pickers?
I've seen that, the odd episode here and there. Yep.
That is essentially what they are going to be doing, but looking for WWE treasures. So anyone out there who might have like a pair of Andre the Giant's boots or a banner from a WrestleMania, like an actual from the show banner or turnbuckles or any of that type of stuff, any treasures that the WWE hasn't lost technically, but are out there with fans. It seems as though that this is going to be a show of them going out and looking for these treasures and then purchasing them back is almost how it feels. And for that, I'm excited because I'm not a big fan of Canadian Pickers, but I love watching the American Pickers. Those guys are freaking fantastic at what they do. So, yeah. To see this, I'm very interested. I would love if I was able to see the pilot episode before everything so that I could get a better handle on what's going to happen with it. But I'm excited for it because I'm a guy that kind of likes those types of shows.
Yep, I think as long as you're, like I said, I think the key will be not using the active talent, because I think it does compromise your character. So you use guys like Triple H, Stephanie, and yep, I would agree. It's got some potential. It's a decent idea. I'll give them props for that. Let's see what we have. Do you have any kind of breaking news that has come up since we've come up with our run here, Karl? I don't know if I've seen much in the way of breaking news. Other than, there was one piece of news that is very dirt sheet worthy that I don't really feel like bringing up. I don't even want to name the person.
That one that we're not even going to
Yeah.
talk about that one right now. Because there's enough negativity in this world right now.
Absolutely.
We don't need to throw in any more.
Yep.
All that we'll say is, if you want to look it up for yourself, Del Rio. That's all we're gonna say and mention. So we're not gonna talk about it. You go and look it up on your own.
Yep, not really seeing much in the way of breaking news, so why don't we just go right to our Match of the Week segment here, Karl. I think I went first last week, and we'll let you go first this week. What was your Match of the Week for this past week here?
Definitely. So my Match of the Week, believe it or not, is actually going to be coming from Money in the Bank.
Ooh.
And it was actually the pre-show match.
There you go.
Jeff Hardy versus Cesaro. I thought that Jeff Hardy really has gone out there and is really trying to reprove himself again. And I was just all around happy with it. Anything that Cesaro is in, that dude is a freaking monster inside of that ring. Like, he just goes and goes and goes. Like, the guy just seems to have no stop and no end to him at all. They call him the Swiss Cyborg, or the Swiss Superman, and all these different monikers for him, and they're all right. So it just very well done between the two of them, and that was my Match of the Week.
Yeah, both great guys. Always been a fan of Cesaro, especially going back to his Ring of Honor days as like Claudio Cesario. And part of me was, and getting slightly off topic, part of me was almost kind of hoping that he might have been part of those releases so that he could kind of go to a different company, because he's one of those guys that really so much fits into that indie kind of feel, because it's where he comes from. I think he really shines when he's in a promotion where the entertainment factor is really about what's happening inside the ring, because he's never really been great as like an out of the ring type character or anything like that. He very much tells his story inside the ring, and that doesn't really quite fit with the current atmosphere and the landscape of WWE. For me, kind of keeping with my norm for the past few weeks here, my Match of the Week doesn't come from current programming whatsoever. My Match of the Week is coming from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Going back to Wrestle Kingdom 14 Night 1, the match for the Junior World Heavyweight Championship between Will Ospreay and Hiromu Takahashi. If you have not had a chance to see this match, do yourself a favor and go and watch it. You will find a match with two guys that just the work rate in the ring is second to none of these two guys. These are two guys that know how to tell a professional wrestling story inside of that ring with just the physicality and none of the other BS. Just go watch this match and you will be thoroughly entertained. If that is your cup of tea, where you like your professional wrestling to be that and inside the ring and in that context, you're going to get a lot out of this.
Sounds awesome. Great pick again, coming from Big Joe. Before we move on here, I want to mention, if you are still a subscriber to the WWE Network, or if you have access somehow to maybe see illegally things that are on the network, the WWE right now is doing this amazing series on The Undertaker.
I heard about that.
They're calling it The Last Ride. Before the pay-per-view Sunday yesterday, I was able to actually see the first, and it was on the network. It was streaming on the network already, so I was able to see part one, and from what I understand, part two is supposed to be coming out tonight. So it's a from what I understand, it's a 5-part series. And honestly, it has been the first part one. Wow. Wow. Just blown away by this, because this is something new we have never seen behind the scenes with The Undertaker. He doesn't do podcasts. He doesn't do video casts. He doesn't do any of that stuff. But for the first time in between the years of 2017 and 2020, he allowed cameras to actually follow him.
Interesting. Because if I'm not mistaken, that was actually supposed to debut after Money in the Bank, so they must have bumped it ahead of the actual show. Interesting. That might have been a move to try and get some people to stay tuned in after for the actual quote-unquote pay-per-view or whatever show. So they might have done it for that reason of moving it ahead to try and see if people would stick around afterwards. Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, well, it wasn't actually right before the pay-per-view.
Okay.
Yeah, like I watched it in the morning.
Oh, wow. So
it was
they really
on the network. So I took my computer and I was able to cast from my computer up to my television, and I was able to watch it that morning.
So they bumped it up.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that morning. I would say more about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon after I had woken up from my night shift. So for me, it's morning. But yeah, so I mean, looking 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was actually able to throw this up there and watch. So it was, yeah. If you have an opportunity to see this, I only expect great things from it, and I was very happy with the first episode.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man, we're going to take a brief break here. We're going to come back with our Showstopper segment, and we are going to take a little look at a professional wrestling promotion called the UWF and what can be learned from this whole situation that happened, especially if you don't know the story. We'll talk a little bit about it when we come back. This week's episode is brought to you by Collar and Elbow. Visit collarandelbowbrand.com where you can get 15% off when using promo code JKPodcast at the checkout, including this week's featured item, the Good Brothers Dojo t-shirt. All right, guys, Big Joe and Karl Karufel back here on Turnbuckle Talk.
Yes, we are, guys. We are at that moment that everybody loves. We are talking our Showstopper segment.
Yeah, absolutely, Karl. And thankfully, lately with the lack of live wrestling content out there, we've had this program called Dark Side of the Ring that has provided us with a lot of wrestling-esque entertainment and education here on things and incidents and people in the wrestling business. And this past week was no different. We had an episode of Dark Side of the Ring that focused in on a little wrestling promotion called the Universal Wrestling Federation, otherwise known as the UWF. What did you think about this episode, just kind of briefly here, Karl, before we get into the deets?
I was thoroughly enjoyed because I'll be honest with everybody. I really didn't know about this promotion.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Yep.
So to hear and learn about it and to kind of learn about some of the backstage shenanigans that were happening with this company was fantastic for me. So, I mean, I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. So this basically started, well, there's an actual date here. This company was founded on August 26th, 1980. So I would have been 10 years old at the time. And this was an attempt.
Wait. Did you say 1980?
Sorry, 1990. I meant 1990.
Okay.
Got my dates wrong. 1990. So it would have been, I was messed up there. August 26, 1990. And this was basically, to downplay just a little bit here, this was a wrestling mark trying to compete directly with Vince McMahon and the World Wrestling Federation at the time. Just to get to the nitty gritty, that essentially is how this kind of started. A wrestling mark who had some money wanted to compete with Vince. And he was able to get some significant names to be interested in this. We're talking Bruiser Brody, San Martino, Cactus Jack, Paul Orndorff, Steve Williams, Lou Albano. He was able to get a lot of very notable talent, even at one point able to get Andre the Giant for a very brief run.
About 30 seconds.
For about 30 seconds, yeah. And even went as far as doing a show at the MGM Grand Garden Arena to a very, very small quote-unquote crowd, probably one of the worst pay-per-views of all time. this is an example here, Karl. We've talked about, when AEW started up and how they, were looking for competition, but being very cautious about competing right directly with Vince and trying to unseat them as the number one company. This is an example of what can happen if you go with that mindset and then just completely lose your mind. But the best way I can kind of put it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. Unfortunately, like you say, this guy was just he was a fan, and wanted to start his own promotion to take down the conglomerate. Even back then, in 1990, the conglomerate of the WWE or WWF, drugs, alcohol, hookers.
Yep.
Sounding like a Marty Jannetty story.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But, all of those things played a factor into it. And, it just a huge downfall, a huge downturn. Really, it was a showcase and a history lesson in what not to do if you're going to try to start a professional wrestling organization. You talked about AEW, and I love how they have not tried to compete with or even like take down the WWE on a large scale, let's say. But they kind of just Wednesday nights, right? Which their NXT is on Wednesday nights. We get that, definitely. But it's not like they're trying to go head to head with both Raw and SmackDown and NXT and throwing all of this out at the same time. No, they kind of took their time, and that was that. So it was very good on AEW's front, but for the UWF, not so much, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the owner of the company, like we had mentioned, the wrestling Mark, who started this, his name was Herb Abrams, and he was the type of guy that, when you have that combination of a lot of money in the bank account and then going with this lifestyle and this whatnot, it was doomed to kind of go in that direction. And it even got to the point here, Karl, where money was so bad that there were towns that literally had him cornered on the rooftop of a building and said, if you don't pay us, we're chucking you off. That's how bad it got.
And it wasn't just talent either. It was even television production or production company as well. Like camera crews are sitting there going, if you don't pay us, we're taking our cameras and we're leaving.
Yeah.
So like,
You literally had a guy that wasn't paying his talent and his crew, but at the same time, literally, I'm not exaggerating, this guy literally had mountains of coke in his hotel room or private room, or whatever you want to call it, and was literally probably like swimming in cocaine. Like at one point, when the night that he probably died, he was covered in oil and cocaine. This guy was literally probably like swimming in this garbage, and at the same time wasn't paying his crew and his talent. Damn, like it doesn't get any worse than that. And what's unfortunate too, when you look at people that were close to him near the end of the episode, they realized it was bad, but there were some people that obviously, still like this guy. And, it's just a really unfortunate situation of somebody that, minus the coke and the stupidity and the craziness, could have actually probably made a decent run if he could have just kept his vices under control.
You're 100% correct. 100% correct. The UWF could have been a major thing if it would have been taken a little slower and would have been done and worked without the drugs, I think. The guy just, he had separate bank accounts.
Yeah.
Right? So he was writing checks for these companies and for these people from the bank account that didn't have his millions of dollars in it. And that's how big this was. This guy had millions of dollars. So you're looking back in the 90s, millions of dollars was a big thing.
Yep.
And he had that.
Yep.
And so it's very unfortunate. It could have really turned into something good, especially with all of the former WWF names that he had.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Probably the best way that I can kind of, now this might be a bit of an obscure thing, but to kind of make a reference to really kind of put this kind of into perspective, this whole situation, it really kind of reminded me, I don't know if you remember this band that came out there. The band was called Airborne. They were kind of like an AC/DC-ish kind of band that came out in the early 2000s. And there was a song that came out called Too Much, Too Young, Too Fast. I think that phrase almost kind of describes the UWF. They tried to do too much too quickly and just really fizzled out really fast. And if they would have just taken their time and really tried to grow as a proper wrestling promotion, they could have been something significant. But they did too much too fast, and they unfortunately had a guy running the company that, quite frankly, didn't know what he was doing. So that's about the best way I can kind of put it. And as a cautionary tale to promoters out there, just don't do this. I know that it might sound a little bit silly, but if you're going to be in that position, just be careful what you do in your personal life. And if you're somebody that has some issues, specifically with drugs, you got to get some help. That's about all I can kind of say. Whether you already have that existing, or whether you're somebody that has money and kind of gets carried away, just it can really, really be a detriment in this kind of situation. So drugs in general, like that, cocaine especially, is one just to not fool around with. I've known people that have been involved with it, even as far as family, and it can have a very, very negative effect, and it really messes you up. Like this guy was literally at the point, I'm talking Herb Abrams here, to where he thought people were spying on him, and that people had little microphones and speakers inside of pillows. He would literally tear apart these pillows because he thought that people were spying on him with microphones inside of pillows. Like, damn, like how messed up can you get? And it's unfortunate because this company was around at a time where they could have really been something, but just this one guy ruined it for everybody. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is totally unfortunate. I mean, especially given like you had WCW. Mm-hmm. As well around at that time.
Yep.
Right. I believe ECW was just, the rumblings were starting to happen with ECW as well.
Yep.
So it could have been a very viable thing. And too fast, too quick. Yes, correct. He should have started a little bit lower. You want to take over? Well, take out ECW first. Mm-hmm. Oh, WCW is still young. Try to take out, WCW and work your way up to the top. Just like any type of fighter who goes out there, the boxer, MMA, whatever it is, you're training, and your first match isn't going to be against the top guy. Mm-hmm. Your first match is going to be against that lower card guy, and you're working your way up to the top. Yeah. And I think that if Herb Abrams would have done that and maybe loosened a little bit of the control and given some of the control to his friend and business partner to actually run everything, if he wanted to do all the drugs and have the hookers and stuff like that, he's putting up the money for all of this. Let him have his fun. But somebody should have gone to him and said, listen, let me run this for you. I will make the money for you so that you can continue to afford your habits and we'll be good. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah.
And a smart man would have gone, all I have to do is coke and hookers and just sit back and the money's going to keep rolling in.
Yeah.
Damn right.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, if he had done that, we still might see the UWF today.
Yeah. And not every wrestling promoter, like the owner, doesn't always need to be a face on camera too. Like you just mentioned, they can just kind of be that person. They don't always have to be on TV. This was a guy that really shouldn't have been put in front of a camera because like he was at the point where he thought people were going to be entertained by yellow cowboy boots. All 200 people that happened to be in the crowd. And even if I haven't mentioned it here on the recording, they even went as far on their belt to make look like when they would fold the belt over, they would say F you. I mean, that was a direct shot at Vince. That kind of stuff just don't do. It's a bad move. Like I had mentioned, WWE is at the top doing their own kind of thing. Everybody else can do their own thing. I always mention, there can be a Coke and there can be Pepsis, and Pepsis can be just as successful as Coke without having to be that number one company. That's I'll say it again. Not everybody can be at the top, but there's plenty of room below as well. That's the way I can put it.
Wonderfully said.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, like I said, about wraps it up for this week, barring anything else. I guess maybe just make a brief mention for Collar and Elbow before we peace out of here today, Karl.
Definitely. We are partnered up with collarandelbowbrand.com. We are the first ever sponsored podcast from Collar and Elbow Brand. We are very happy about that and want to tout that every chance that we can. Go and check out collarandelbowbrand.com. There is a link available to the site at all of our social media, which can be found at TB Talk Pod. Click that link. It'll take you directly to the store where we actually get a little bit of a kickback for every purchase that you make, as long as you use our promo code JK Podcast at the checkout. Not only do you get 10% off your entire purchase, whether it is brand new merchandise or the clearance, you get 10% off and we get a little kickback too.
And there you go. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
Have a nice day.
It's me. It's an honor to be the V. As you can tell in the background, we are out celebrating. That is what we do here at hittingthemarks.com. And I invite everyone to continue to tune in to Turnbuckle Talk, but check out all of our other shows we have written at all at hittingthemarks.com.
Run.